a lot of guys get caught up with the fact that they think they got to learn these certain scales and be able to play them correctly, and these certain scales work only in particular situations and this and that. And I never did that, and I don't really suggest that it's a great way to do things, because that's just going to limit you. The way I kind of developed my own quote-unquote scales is I kind of made them up, and you can make them up yourself. The way I came up with this one scale, which it's got some name, you know, harmonic minor or something like that. I just heard a chord and I played notes. So I came up with something like this, over like an A chord. I kind of just took one note at a time and said, wow, this note sounds cool here. I tried it like this. No, I didn't like the way that sounded. I keep, you know, eliminating notes until I got it into a form that I liked. Okay, building on these patterns that you're going to be practicing, you can use them, you know, in your scale positions that you've made up, or you can use them in any kind of positions and cram them together in a way that's going to make you sound like you're playing a long flowing run, when actually you know that this long flowing run is like a combination of a bunch of patterns stuck together. And if the patterns aren't exactly the same, then it's going to sound a little bit more interesting and more flowing. If it's all the same, it's going to sound like, it's going to sound really obvious to the listener what you're doing. Like if you say, say you do a straight triplet run, like say, it just sounds diddle 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 straight down. So that's cool if that's the desired effect. But what you can do is take a bunch of patterns and stick them together and go from one place to the other. You know, we started here and wound up there. So let's find another way to go down there. Let's play a whole bunch of different patterns on the strings. Slowly, something like. So each one of those little sections could be practiced separately. And say you do this one separately, like a little 5 pattern, and then you could say, okay, I'm going to do this 5 pattern for this little position here. And then when I want to cover the next 2 strings, you could go something like, that'd be like a 7 pattern. So we'll go from the 5 to the 7 pattern. So going down, it would sound like this. Let's find another cool way to get the rest of the way down the scale. So we've done this. So we could do like some quick triplets. What we have all together would be something like this. So it's a little bit more interesting to break it up sometimes, you know, than to just do a scale pattern all the way down. You want to be able to have the option to do both, though. So the first option was practice the long form thing, a big long scale exercise. Second one is have a whole bunch of little patterns and practice them separately so you're confident with each one. And you can like break it up in a way where you don't have to do just one of each. You can do 1 and 1, 2 of the other, 3 of one, this and that. And you can make it to get from one place to the other. So that's a little bit more interesting. And that's kind of how long runs are. I mean, whether they're consciously thought up or not, the long runs are made up of little patterns, which each one should be practiced separately so you're in more of control. That's so important, control. Get control of the notes that you play, because that's the only thing you have control over. You know, you can get your technique together, but then you got to have control over your note choice. That's what's going to make you sound different than someone else, because you can control yourself from sounding like someone else. You got to have control. The key word here is control. Now I want to try a progression that's a little bit different in sound, and the same concepts apply, you know, following the chords and all that, but let's try to get a different sound from those other ones that we had before. Progression's going to look like this: A minor, D minor, then F, then E. So what we have is 2 minor chords and 2 major chords, okay? But it still has this kind of sorrowful sound going on here. And we want to follow each chord. Of course, we can obviously follow all chords by staying in the key of A minor. We could do that, and that'd be just fine. But that would be like what I was talking about before with like what other guys do all the time. We want to follow each chord to the best of our abilities. So I'm going to give you an example of following these chords, and then I'll start explaining what has gone on. Okay, that's so typical of the way I would play. So if anybody cares about the way I would particularly play, learn exactly what I just did. Those are the most common ways that I follow a chord. These chords that we just played, that's just what naturally comes out. And let's start to break that down a little bit. A minor chord comes up. Basically, you can use your notes in your A minor scale or A arpeggio. A minor would look like this. Right, that's your basic 1, 3, 5 root, third, and the fifth. And then when the D comes up, I start to get a little bit more adventurous. So D minor happens. And I like to hit this B note over D minor, which has a really exotic sound. So I like to target myself to that D note. So say I'm playing in the A minor part and I'm going. And then I know the D's coming up, so I try to get to a B really quickly. Because I know what's coming up, I know what note I need to hit, so I try to get it somehow. So D is a real common note for me to hit over that B is a real common note for me to hit over that D minor chord. And also I like to hit F over that, which is like it works nicely in the key of D because it's a minor note. And it's also nice to go to that note because it's not so great to hit that particular note over A minor. Because if you got A minor going, it's not really nice to sit over that note in A minor. It's nice to pass over it. But it's not really nice to sit on it. But when D minor comes, it's totally great to sit on that note for a while. So that's a fresh note that you haven't really sat on and used up too much in the chord before. So if you think about that, say now it's okay to use that F note and lay on it for a while. That's why I kind of break into that note commonly over a D minor chord. And then the F comes up, the F chord. I think taking that concept one step further, a note that you couldn't use on either chord would be like E flat. Like E flat over A minor would sound like this. Not very pleasant. Over D minor would sound even worse. But if you wait until you get to the F chord, you could play it and not pretend, just act like you're playing an F7th over there, you know? You can just go, it's like, oh, I meant to hit that weird note. I meant to hit that note there, you know? Basically, it sounds like you're playing a 7th there, because you are. And for the first time in the progression, you can use an E flat. So I like to break out that note because it's fresh then. So I'll commonly go to that E flat there over F, and then E comes. There's a lot of different things you can do over a major chord and a minor progression. What I did probably the last couple times when I just improvised was kind of subliminally throw in a diminished over that. I probably soloed like a diminished thing. Thing about a diminished chord, if you play it over like E major in this progression, 3 of the notes are going to be perfect. Like that's like an E7. The only note that's kind of out there is F over E. But if you use it kind of as a passing note, it's going to really just sound exotic. So when the E comes up, so typically I might break into some kind of diminished feel there. So that's just kind of some of the thought processes that happen when I'm playing a progression like that. And that's a really good one to like just tape and loop it for a while and solo over, and then get a feel over what the notes are going to sound like over the chords. When you're confident about the notes that you choose, you can just bang, hit them like you're just rip someone's head right off with it. You know, if you're aware of the note, that's all that much more strength you're going to have when you dial into that note. You know, so just be aware and wake up.